Imagine this, a perfectly still lake at twilight. No wind, no ripples, just four white shapes drifting silently across dark water. And then they begin to sing. But these aren't ordinary swans. Their voices carry something deeper, something achingly human, a melody so sorrowful that anyone who hears it feels an inexplicable grief, as if mourning something they have lost but can never quite remember. Few know the truth about these creatures. Fewer still remember that these swans were once children. And almost no one remembers the woman who cursed them to this fate. Welcome back to Last Campfire. Tonight we're diving into one of Irish mythology's most tragic tales. A story of jealousy, endurance, and a curse that lasted nearly a millennium. This is the story of the Children of Lir. Our story begins in ancient Ireland, in the realm of the Tuatha Dé Danann, the mystical race of gods and heroes who once ruled the Emerald Isle. Among them was Lir, a noble lord whose land stretched around the shores of Lake Derrawara. Lir wasn't known for conquest or power. He was known for something far rarer: devotion. Devotion to his people, to his home, and above all, to his children. He had 4 of them. Fionnuala, the eldest, wise, protective, with eyes that seemed to understand the weight of the world. Her gentle brother, who brought light wherever he went. And the twins, Fiachra and Con, inseparable from birth, 2 halves of the same soul. Their mother died when they were young. For months, grief hung over Lir's household like a heavy fog. The halls fell silent. Laughter became a memory. But slowly, life returned. The children's voices filled the emptiness. The laughter echoed through the stone corridors. They became Lir's entire world. His reason to wake each morning. His joy at every sunset. And other lords noticed. Some admired Lir's devotion. Others grew envious. Not of his children, but of the unity that seemed unshakable in his house, while their own families fractured with ambition and rivalry. To forge political alliances and maintain peace, Lir was persuaded to marry again. His new bride was Aoife, sister to a powerful king. She arrived with great ceremony, beautiful, noble, intelligent. At first, she seemed genuinely kind to the children. But here's the thing about kindness that depends on being the center of attention. It's fragile, and dangerously so. Aoife quickly realized a painful truth. No matter what she did, no matter how elegant her appearance, how noble her bloodline, how charming her conversation, she would never be loved the way the children were loved. Lir's gaze always drifted to them. His genuine laughter only came when they were near. At feast, he told stories about their cleverness. During hunts, he taught them ancient wisdom. At night, he sat by their beds, telling them tales of heroes and gods. And Aoife? She was admired, respected, but not cherished, not the way they were. At first, the jealousy was just a whisper in the back of her mind, easy to ignore. Then it grew louder. It began to speak to her in quiet moments. Why them? Why not me? What do they have that I lack? And eventually it screamed. She began to hate them. Not for anything they had done. They were innocent in every way. She hated them for what they represented. A love she could never replace, a bond she could never break. Jealousy, left unchecked, becomes something monstrous. And Alfie had something most people don't: the power to act on it. She was, after all, of the Tuatha Dé Danann. She knew the old magic, the dangerous kind, the irreversible kind. One morning, Alfie announced she was taking the children on a trip to visit relatives. Lir saw no reason to worry. She had always treated them well enough in his presence. She helped them into the carriage herself, brushing Fionuala's long hair, kissing Aid's forehead, laughing with the twins. The children had no reason to fear her. They traveled to Lake Derarawa, the same lake where they'd played countless times before. Alfie led them to the water's edge. The surface was perfectly calm that day, mirror-like, reflecting the sky above. Then Alfie spoke. Ancient words. Old, bitter magic that predated even the Tuatha Dé Danann. A spell so dark that the very air seemed to recoil. And the world shattered. Imagine the horror. Feathers erupting from skin, arms twisting, bones cracking, reshaping into wings. Human screams becoming the cries of swans. The pain must have been unbearable. Not just physical, but the terror of losing yourself, feeling your humanity slip away. When the transformation ended, 4 white swans floated on the dark water, their reflections trembling. But here what makes this curse truly diabolical. They were still themselves inside, still conscious, still fully aware. They could think, remember, feel, but they could no longer be human. Alfie wasn't finished. She condemned them to 900 years of exile, 300 years on Lake Derarawa, 300 years on the Sea of Moyle, one of the most brutal, storm-wracked bodies of water in all of Ireland, and 300 years on the Western Seas, far from any land they had ever known. The curse would only break when 2 impossible conditions were met. A prince from the north had to marry a princess from the south, and a Christian bell had to ring across the water. Remember, this was ancient, pagan Ireland. Christianity hadn't even arrived yet. Alfie was essentially saying, this curse will never break. She turned and left. The lake swallowed her crime in silence. When Lir discovered what had happened, his grief was devastating. He raced to the lake and collapsed at the water's edge. 4 swans approached him, and then they spoke, in voices he knew better than his own heartbeat. Father, Fionuala said, it's us. They told him everything. Lir wept. He begged them to come home, to let him find a way to break the spell. But there was no way. No power he possessed, no ally he could summon, could undo what Alfie had done. All he could do was visit them. Every day he came to the lake. He spoke to them, told them stories, promised he would never abandon them. He did this until age weakened his body, and his visits became less frequent. And eventually, as it does for all mortal things, time claimed him. The children, now swans, watched their father grow old and die. That was their first true loss. Not their humanity, but the last person who remembered them as they truly were. 300 years on Lake Derarawa taught them patience. They sang to each other at night, not swan songs, but human melodies passed down from their childhood. They told stories to keep their memories alive. Fionuala, the eldest, became their anchor, sheltering her brothers under her wings during freezing winters, reminding them of who they were when despair crept in. Then came the Sea of Moyle. If Lake Derawara was exile, the Sea of Moil was torment. Storms rose without warning, waves like mountain crashing down. The swans were torn apart again and again. Con was once carried miles away by a single wave and spent days searching for his siblings. Fiacre nearly drowned beneath chunks of ice. I cried out in despair, his voice nearly lost to the howling wind. Only Fionuala never broke. Hold on, she told them through every storm. Remember who we are. Remember we're still the children of Lir. And somehow, impossibly, they survived. By the time they reached the western seas for their final 300 years, the world had transformed. The old gods were fading into legend. Stone halls where their once place lay in ruins. Christianity had spread across Ireland, and new prayers replaced the old songs. The swans were no longer living legends. They were ghosts of a forgotten age, just birds to anyone who saw them. Until one day, a bell rang. Soft, clear, unmistakable. A monk named McQueevoke was building a small chapel near the coast. He heard singing, not bird calls, but something hauntingly human. Following the sound, he found 4 swans gathered near the shore. And they told him their story. He listened to their tale of gods and curses, of a jealous stepmother and a father who loved them until his dying breath. He heard about 900 years of endurance, of storms and loneliness, and a desperate fight to remember who they were. Then, quietly, the prophecy fulfilled itself. A prince from the north married a princess from the south. The bell rang again for their wedding mass. The spell broke. Feathers fell away. 4 human forms collapsed on the body. Ancient, withered, barely breathing. 900 years had passed, after all. They should have been dust centuries ago. The monk baptized them quickly, one by one. Fionuala smiled as she felt human warmth for the first time in 9 centuries. Aid reached for his brother's hands. The twins leaned against each other, just as they always had. And then, peacefully they died. The monk buried them together in a single grave, as they had wished. After 900 years apart, scattered across stormy seas, they would rest together for eternity. They say that even now, when the wind passes over Lake Derawara at twilight, if you listen carefully when the water is perfectly still, you can hear a song. Not the call of swans, but something deeper, something human. The voices of 4 children who endured time itself, who held onto their humanity through magic and storms and centuries of suffering, who were finally, mercifully, allowed to rest. The Children of Lir reminds us that some bonds, the bonds of family, of love, of who we truly are, can never be broken. Not by magic, not by jealousy, not even by 900 years. Thanks for gathering around the campfire tonight. Until next time, sleep well and listen carefully to the songs carried on the wind.